Welcome to Momivate Momversations on Win-Win Women. We are so grateful for this platform so we women can gather to care, connect, and collaborate. Truly a win-win for us all. I'm your hostess, Reagan Barnes, mom of 8 and founder of Momivate. We are a nonprofit organization that empowers you to elevate your mothering experience. Also joining us today is Chief Financial Mom, Dr. Mary Bell Carlson, and you. Mom, you are joining us, and we are so glad to have you both, Mary and you too. We welcome you into the Momivate community, or Momunity, as we like to say. We are moms united in our passion to create a better world for our children, with our children, and through our children. Join us and become a Momunity member. It's free on our website, momivate.org. And here at Momivate, we answer the question, what do moms do? With this uplifting statement: moms raise up society. That's right, not just our own kids, but all of society, including ourselves, as we do repeatedly. Bedtime and load after load of laundry, it makes an impact that goes beyond our homes, because as moms, we are uniquely positioned to influence society one-on-one as we take on the repetitive, loving work that shapes our children, and it shapes us too. Today, with our special guest, Chief Financial Mom, Dr. Mary Carlson, who has specified that we call her Mary, we're going to focus on the income and OUTGO category of this acronym, and even get more narrow and dig into a specific subcategory of budgeting. So we're excited to have you with us, Chief Financial Mom. You're joining us from Virginia?
Yes, I am in Virginia, and I'm a mom of 3, so thanks for letting me join. I'm glad to be here.
It's a thrill for us too. I'm going to just list off a few of the reasons that we should pay close attention to what you're going to teach us today, because you have worked both in the military and government sectors for over a decade, specifically in finances, right?
Yes, all finances, yep.
Okay, so I really liked the term that you gave yourself as a financial behavior expert. Mm-hmm. I think that makes it real clear that you're not just crunching numbers, but you're looking at how we think about these things. Yeah. I have down that you've founded 2 companies, the chieffinancialmom.com. That's a blog.
Yes.
And
put in the chat for anyone too.
Okay, and then Carlson Consulting, a firm dedicated to helping other leaders improve their business efficiency and relationships. And then I have that you are co-host of the podcast, Real Money, Real Experts.
Yes.
How can people listen to that? Are you on Spotify?
We're everywhere. Yep, just look
everywhere.
At Real Experts, wherever you get your podcasts.
And is that once a week that you come out with a new one?
Bi-weekly. So
Okay. And you're also busy being an adjunct faculty member for the financial planning programs at University of Georgia and Texas Tech University. Mm-hmm. Oh, moms, we are so blessed to get to have our guests have this kind of expertise and guide us through our finances, especially in this day and age where money is crazy. But you are going to talk to us even about monetary history, what it means and why it matters.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Reagan, for that introduction. I have to laugh because I love being here. This is my favorite thing. In fact, I just started a 3rd company because, of course, I have lots of extra time. And next week, we're hoping to release our keynote speaking. It's called Financial Behavior Keynote Speaker Group. And so where we go virtually and on stage to talk about financial behavior. So financial behavior is really about money relationships.
Okay.
How money impacts marriages, how it impacts families, children, and you mentioned money history. So these are things that are passed down from generation to generation. If I take a pause and a poll, and I'd love to see in the chat if you're joining us live, tell us, where did you learn about money? And how did you learn about money? And while you're putting that in the chat, I'll relate a story with you that I remember very specifically. So my dad is very much, how do I describe him? The accountant type in the family, meaning I remember back in the day, he was an entrepreneur and have his large checkbook checking account. And he would take it and he would literally reconcile to the penny. And I remember distinctly going to the bank with him a few times, and he would take this large checkbook in and sit it down on the counter right in front of the teller. And he would say, you're 10 cents off. And they'd be like, no, pretty sure not. Sure enough, they were 10 cents off. He was.
Oh my goodness.
So he's not an accountant, I will tell you that. He actually worked in the oil and ranching industry, but he was just very vigilant, what we call money vigilance, right? He was very, very aware of it, almost to a fault, like, Dad, maybe give the bank a 10-cent pass, okay? My mother, on the other hand, very different, very different. She was a school teacher, and we joke about this, poor mom, I hope you're not listening, but we do joke, and she always would say, well, how can I be overdrawn? I have checks left, right? Like there's money in my account, right? Or I have money to spend. So anyways, long story short, I remember calling up my dad. I had just gotten into the master's program at Texas Tech in financial planning. And I was learning about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and insurance and investments, like all this stuff that you just don't learn about, right? I called up my dad and I said, Dad, how did you learn all this? Like, was it one day when you got married? That's what I thought the secret was, because I was single for a long time. And I was like, oh, when you get married, you wake up the next morning and you're getting all of this knowledge. Well, we all know that's not true. I'm now married and realized there was nothing extra that came except a lot of work and blessings. There are a lot of blessings. But my dad just said, honey, it's called the School of Hard Knocks. And I think that's how a lot of us learn, is this school of hard knocks, right? And yes, experience as a teacher, and you will eventually learn, sometimes even like our children, you will learn, sometimes the hard way, but go those lessons. Well, I knew at the time I did not want to be that. I didn't want to go through the School of Hard Knocks. So as I was getting my degree, at the end, I thought, there's so much information out there. I need to share this with other people. And that's what got me started in my love of financial education. So I flew out, I moved to Washington, D.C. with a one-way ticket, no job, 2 contacts. And long story short, ended up in the gold room at the Treasury building, working with the nation's top departments, all in financial education. So it was a wonderful experience. I spent time in the Pentagon, teaching at the highest levels of the military, doing financial education for the military. I've done financial planning. I've done all kinds of fun things along the way. And then I had kids about 7 years ago, and that's where this shift came in. I remember having my daughter one morning for either really late night or early morning. You can tell I was a breastfeeding mother at that point, because you just don't know.
It all just combines.
And I remember looking at my phone and just going, all I'm getting sent is stuff to buy. Just buy, and more stuff to buy. And there was never anything that had good information or education or knowledge of how do I really manage my money. And that's where Chief My Financial Mom was born out of, is I feel a duty or a responsibility that I've been gifted this information, and now it's my turn to pass it on. And that's,
I love that attitude. I think that is a beautiful concept, is that if we are given that kind of, whether it's about money or whatever, cooking, anything like that, that next step is to share it and to help other moms enjoy it as well. So not just pass on the knowledge and information, but the enthusiasm that you bring with it, I think is very valuable also, so that we don't have to be scared either, whether it's scared about money or scared about cooking or whatever other issues we deal with as moms. Let's empower each other so that it's a joyful journey together, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things I'm seeing here in the comments that most of you learn through your parents, which is very normal, right? Most of us have, and maybe some of your children might be learning some in school now. There's a few more places you can now go look. In fact, there's checkyourschool.org, and I can put that in the chat for you as well if you want to see if your school offers financial education. And if not, there's a way to email your administrators and say, hey, we want to encourage this and include it. But a lot learn from their parents, and that comes on both sides of the fence, good and bad, right?
Well, especially because like sometimes our parents aren't teaching us necessarily real didactically, but rather just by example. And sometimes the example is hard for us to interpret, right? We just, that's how we grew up seeing it happen. And so we think that's the right way to do it. And sometimes then as we get exposed to other and new ideas and things, we have to kind of relearn and retrain our brains. So
I also think that it could also be problematic and it can become generational. I'll give you an example. I had a client one time who came into my office. I worked with the intel world as well. And so everyone that I've worked with on the military and intelligence side have to have a top secret security clearance. And in order for you to keep your security clearance, you have to keep your finances in order. If they're a mess, you'll lose it. And so this person was sent to me and asked to clean up, and I remember talking, it was actually a couple, and I remember talking with them. And through those discussions, I found out they were at the preparatory stages for bankruptcy because this had been going on for so long. And so as I spoke with them though, I found out both sets of parents on both sides, his and hers, had declared bankruptcy before. And both of them actually no longer lived in the US because they had declared bankruptcy so many times that they have to move to another country so they can continue to live. And
that is alarming. Oh my goodness.
And one of the things that I realized then, and that's what I told them, I said, if you don't want to pass this along to your children, the buck has to stop with you. This is the moment to make that decision. And so that's what I mean when, yes, we can learn some wonderful things, but it's not always the best example. And our parents, let's give our parents some credit too, because as a parent, I know we need some slack.
Yes.
But parents were never given this, right? Like it's just been kind of this experiential learning, which for good or for better or for worse, but there is a better way that we know of, and that's teaching and education. And that's what we're here to do today. So
awesome. I'm really excited and now some of the things that you'll share with us, I'm sure, just lie along the lines of common sense and will be already things we've heard. And so what I'm excited for too is for you to take us even to the next step of going from what we've heard before, because a lot of those things are just facts and truths that you hear from any source, right? But I feel confident that you're going to help us go to the doing, not just the knowing and hearing, but actually putting those things into place and step by step how to make the changes necessary.
Yeah, in my world, we'll move from theory, which is academia, right? And we'll move it into practice so that you can actually apply it. So I will not leave you hanging. And one of the things that I'll start with is we live in a very unique time. Many of you might not remember, but it's been about 40, 50 years since we've had inflation at this high of level that we're seeing today. So what you could buy last year, we all know at this point, is not the same price as it is this year. And so we're seeing, I like that we're talking about this concept of budgeting, because the fact of the matter is our dollar doesn't stretch as much as it did even a year ago, even 6 months ago, right? And so we're still getting the same income in. How do you make that expand longer? Because you're not able to buy everything you were last time. So I think we'll spend some time around that. And we'll also get rid of the dreaded B word, and that is budget. I am not a fan. It's like a diet. Anyone that wants to go on a diet, just raise your hand. Yeah, it's like a budget. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Very good. Well, I'm excited. So part of what you included as you are replacing the word budget is just these 3 simple steps of live within your means, save something for tomorrow, and be a little better each day. So will that be kind of a framework for as we move forward here?
Sounds great. Let's do it. Yes. And so let's start with just the live within your means. Let's actually back it up a little bit and do a little more planning on the front end. So
Okay.
I'm a big fan of a plan, and that let's call it a spending plan. So if you'd rather me, let's talk about spending plans. We've got rid of the B word now. No budget needed. It's not the constraints. It's just a plan with your money. You're making decisions based on your values. And by the way, yours looks different than mine does. And mine looks different than Reagan's does. It doesn't matter how your neighbor spends it, what they're doing, or what they're excited about. In fact, a great read, a book read from back in the 1990s, is called Millionaire Next Door. And the whole crux of that book is there's a lot of people out there, and he says, I love this, tall hat, no cattle. Being from Texas, that means you ain't got nothing in the bank. I remember I'll go on a quick mention. I worked at Wells Fargo as a teller for years, all through college. And I remember working in Midland, Texas, which at the time is one of the highest per capita, highest net worth incomes in the US.
Wow.
Very large. And so one of the things I remember thinking, though, was sometimes we assume or make a quick judgment that someone who's wearing nice clothes and has flashy things, that they're well off. I learned as the bank teller on the other side, when those people walked in, they were the ones doing the cash advances, deep in debt, nothing in the account. The ones with the most would be the old farmer or rancher in the old dirty overalls, walking in and putting his thing down saying, I need 20, like, I don't know, $100 for the weekend or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I would look at his count and go, oh, yes, sir. But
no problem.
So I love that book because it really does normalize this. You can't tell from the outside. The Hollywood is a facade, right? And that's a lot of times what people are putting on is facade. So let's dig back down a little bit deeper and let's go back to the plan. So as we're trying to go through this, one of the things to be considering is what matters for you and your family. I have 3 kids in my family. Reagan, you have 8?
Yeah.
I think our grocery bills probably look a little different.
Probably.
I have 3 littles, but I do have a husband who does like to eat. So we have a little bit versus my friend who has 7 kids, and most of hers are teenage boys, right?
Yikes, yeah.
They're spent on different things, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong. And that's one thing I really want to point out here is I'm not a big fan of these talking heads that say, do it this way, and here's what you should do. I'm not going to tell you should for the rest of the conversation, because at the end of the day, it's your choice, it's your decision, and it's your money. And so
you also have to be willing to accept the consequences that come from those decisions. And being able to, I like the word plan because that indicates looking a little bit further beyond just the choice, is looking at how is that choice going to affect my finances.
Absolutely. And so my recommendation is just sit down, and if you don't already know what you're spending, then estimate and track it for 1 month. That's what I have my students do in my class. And by the way, I teach a lot of financial planners who are already in the industry, some of which have been in the industry 30, 40 years, and they don't even track it. So please don't feel bad if you don't. This is a new concept for everyone in and out of the financial industry. But one of the things I love about that assignment is they go through and they track everything. I don't care if it's pennies in the couch cushion, if it's on a credit card, debit card, doesn't matter. Track the whole thing. And every week you're looking and you're saying, am I spending in alignment with my values? No judgment. By the way, my students actually have to turn it in. And I've had people like worried. And I said, I don't care if you buy a Gucci purse or barely put groceries on the table. It's not my responsibility to tell you how to spend your money. And I don't think any financial planner or coach or anyone should tell you how to spend it. What I am here to do, though, is make sure you're spending in alignment with your values. And so the best way to do that is that you're catching yourself. And so by doing that simple assignment, and it does take a little bit of work and it's a little painful the first month, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And as that happens, the most amazing miracles happen. And that is people regulate and change their own behavior. And that's the crux of it, right? We are not here to oversee and have someone else watch. And I will say this even happens in marriage. So quick background on my history. I grew up, like I mentioned before, very middle class. We were not rich by any stretch, but we also were not poor. I married a man who grew up in a single parent household and specifically remembers going to bed without food. He remembers his father not eating so he could. He remembers being homeless. He remembers traumatic experiences, some of which are financial. And so when we got married, I realized quickly, being a financial behavior specialist, realizing we better start working on these things together. And it has taken years for us to have these discussions and to have these dialogues. And it really, even I would say recently, it was always me holding the crux of the financial discussion, right? Or not even the crux of it, but he would ask me, oh, can we afford this? Or I'm heading to the store, do we have enough money? I call it, I don't want to be the financial queen.
Yeah.
I don't need to grant permission to my children, to my husband, to anyone else. Yes or no, you can and can't spend. I want him to have the freedom to be able to spend. And the way we had done it before is we had multiple checking accounts and I had set up this very complex process. And at the end of the day, it was too much. It was too much for all of us to keep up with. And that's where enter Cube. And that's what I'm here to kind of tell you about today. So we had a good idea of what we were spending per month. And about 6 months ago, I found out this group called Cube. And I want to show you, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen for a minute and kind of walk you through. Here's
Awesome.
you can see that. So here is their home screen. This is an app, but they do have a website here. You can go find out more information. And I'm just going to pull up a few slides and I'll walk you through this slideshow here. Can you still see that, Reagan?
I do, yes.
Okay. So a few things I want to tell you about Cube is, this is my family, by the way.
Hi, family.
My wonderful husband and 3 little girls. One of the things, though, is women specifically have a unique relationship with money, and everybody's a little bit different. But a group called McKinsey & Company, which is one of the top consulting firms in the nation, quite honestly, in the world, put out a study in 2020 talking about how money is going to be transitioning. And we're talking $30 trillion over the next decade is shifting from men to women, because as baby boomer men die out before their wives, the wives are going to be inheriting these funds. It's also interesting because the same study says 70% of women are going to fire their financial advisor within 1 year of their loved one dying. And that is because they haven't been included in the conversations. They haven't had discussions. They've always kind of been in the corner and the men go and talk about it. So I'm seeing a big change in our industry where women have been excluded for a long time to inclusion, both as financial advisors, female financial advisors, as well as female financial clients. In this same study, they talked about how are women different than men? And one of the big things is women want more help with the day-to-day cash management. Women have focused more on real life goals. So they don't care so much on the net worth numbers. I think men kind of are like, well, my number is, well, yours is. Women don't care. They want to know, am I going to be okay in retirement? Do I have enough money? Do we have enough to refinish the kitchen floor? Right? Those things that matter to them versus a number in a bank. They also found that most of the money problems that women worry about are cash flow related. And you can see 8 of the 10 of these here that we've highlighted for you are all around cash flow. So it's really, really important to get this concept. Let's get our arms around the cash flow, because cash flow to me is the centrifuge of the wheel that makes everything else operate. So if you want retirement to be better, your cash flow better be right now, right? If you want your investments to work better, if you want your college savings and education plan, everything, taxes, everything we do in financial planning, the centrifuge is that cash flow. And yet, here's the irony, as financial planners, we kind of glossed over it. We're like, oh yeah, you spend however you spend. Okay, good luck, right? And this is where I think this is changing. So enters Cube money. In a summary, it's the cash envelope method. And let me quickly explain that for any of you that haven't heard of this before. It's essentially, just like it sounds, taking cash out. So let's say every month you have $500 worth of bills. You would pull that money out of the account, you would take the cash out and you divide them into envelopes. One says groceries, gas, whatever that is, and you'd put money in each envelope. Well, maybe you were a little short on gas since gas is higher than it used to be. Well, you could rob from the grocery money and put it into your gas money, but then you have to pay with everything with cash. Well, we've become such a cashless society that there are many places that cash won't work. Plus, you don't necessarily want to be walking around with $500 of cash on you as a target, right? So it wasn't very practical for our 21st century application. And this is where I think Cube has been a game changer in this, because they have taken that concept and they've moved it to a digital platform. So that's all Cube is digitized cash envelopes. It's a bank and a budget all in one.
That's beautiful.
Here's a quick picture, and I'll go through and show you directly some of that. So it's got a spending plan, right? You go through, you customize your cube, meaning you pick the color, you pick the picture, you pick whatever cube. You can have one cube, you can have 50 cubes, and think of those cubes as those little envelopes. So it's all one bank account. Unlike me, I had so many bank accounts it was hard to keep up with. This is easier because it's one account, but different cubes. And those are different envelopes, right? And the best part is that you have to tap it open to spend it. So let me give you an example. When you walk into the store, you usually don't walk in with your purse open and your wallet hanging out, right?
Right.
So we walk in with our wallet closed until we get to the checkout. Once that checkout, the wallet opens, we take out the card, we swipe it. I shouldn't even do that. I should just show you my wallet here. You take it out, you open it up, and then you take your card out and use it. Well, the best part of Cube is when I take this debit card out, it has nothing on it. It's what we call a zero-based or closed banking system. Most of our banking system in this day and age, both credit and debit, has become an open banking system, meaning anybody can reach in and pull out money of that account. And we've had that happen a lot with identity theft, where people are taking it and not allowed to do it. Well, the hassle of that is the consumer now has to go and follow up and run all the mess to clean it up afterwards, right? Cube is a closed banking system. So just like I showed you my wallet, until I open the Cube, I can't, nothing, it will decline the transaction. It will not spend from it. And then you close your wallet. So you open it, you close it. And then I even have had a couple of people try to take money out of the Cube and they get nothing.
Wow.
Almost zero fraud liability. And it also does automatic tracking and reporting. This is kind of the third thing that I love about it, is the fact of the matter is if you have a budgeting system, spreadsheet, whatever you're using, awesome for you. Most people hate the penny pinching tracking side of it, right? Because they're usually, it's like looking in your rearview mirror. So instead of looking ahead and figuring out where you're going, you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror saying, oops, that's what I spent last month.
Oops.
Oh, I better do better. And we're very dependent on our own personal financial behavior to moderate ourselves. Well, we know as human beings, we don't do great at that. And we go back to the quid pro quo, right? We go back to the status quo. And so this allows you to be much more intentional with your spending, and it allows for the reports. If you're very interested in reports, you can get it, but you're spending in the moment and you're tracking in the moment. So there's no rearview mirror, there's no time taken of spending hours reconciling anything. It's happening as you go. All right, should we jump in? I'm going to jump in.
Mary, I'm afraid I have to do this transition from our recording to the next portion. So I'm going to share my slides now to say that everybody can find you at Chief Financial Mom and even download a free guide. Cube Money budgeting app is something that you've been telling us about and showing us those things, and we'll keep talking about it because we continue even after this recording, and I want all of our video watchers, thank you, of course, for watching the video. And as you can see, there's a trial code to get an 8-week premium free trial. And that's MOMI, the first part of Momivate, MOMI. But we are just, this half hour's gone by so fast. Yeah. So all you who are watching this other recording, be sure to join us live every week. And then you get to continue for the second half hour where you get to join the conversation or the Momversation. But in the meantime, I do want to end on a note of gratitude. Thank you, Mary, and thank you at home for joining us. And we will thank Win-Win Women, because this is how it's unique. We care, we connect, and we collaborate.